and on February 11th, 1991 in other countries. The film was released on DVD in June 2000 and on Blu-ray on August 7th, 2012. The home video, television broadcast, and on-demand streaming services include all three endings shown sequentially, with the first two characterized as possible endings and the third being the true one. The Blu-ray and DVD, however, gives you the option to watch the endings separately, chosen randomly by the player, as well as the home entertainment version ending with all three of them stitched together.
That's how I watched it.
Mm-hmm. That's how I've always watched it, and that's how I always intend to watch it.
because I don't want to watch a movie. I don't want to watch this movie with just one ending and then it ends. No.
I'm watching
this
all
movie
three,
ends with the three
all
endings.
three endings. But that's how I do it. Even though it was poorly received when it was first released, it has developed a cult following. In fact, if you Google the movie right now, there is probably a screening of it in a theater near you in the very near future. I did it 3 times, and there's always a screening somewhere.
Really?
Yep. For its 100th episode, the murder mystery comedy series Psych staged a Clue tribute in which various people are murder suspects inside a mansion. Martin Mull, Christopher Lloyd, and Leslie Ann Warren all appeared in the episode. Universal Studios announced in 2011 that a new film based on the game was being developed. The film was initially dropped, then resumed as Hasbro teamed up with Gore Verbinski to produce and direct. That's what could have happened. But how about this? In August 2016, the tracking board reported that Hasbro had landed at 20th Century Fox, with Josh Feldman producing for Hasbro Studios and Ryan Jones serving as executive producer, while Daria Sircek was overseeing by Fox. The film would be a worldwide mystery with action-adventure elements, potentially setting up a possible franchise that could play well internationally.
Jesus Christ.
But here's how it's really happening. In January 2018, Fox announced that Ryan Reynolds, who had established a 3-year first-look deal with the studio, would star in a live-action remake of Clue, with Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, writers of Deadpool and Zombieland, and their sequels, as scriptwriters. In September 2019, The Wrapped report that Jason Bateman is in talks to direct the film.
That's a weird way to put that. Live-action. I'm like, this is a live-action.
What do you mean?
Oh, a live-action remake implies that it was a cartoon.
Maybe one of those above-mentioned ones were, but
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I'm not writing this stuff. I'm copying and pasting. So this is why I also get very confused when there's like errors, because I'm like, I'm getting these from actual places. So somebody should have proofread this. I shouldn't have to. So yeah, I didn't even notice. I just copy and paste.
Either way, a Ryan Reynolds, Jason Bateman deal would be.
I think that's the only way I'm going to accept it. I'm like, Ryan Reynolds is good enough to. And if he's not playing Wadsworth, somebody fucked up somewhere.
No, you.
Who else are you going to get?
God, I don't know. We don't have the time to.
Exactly. I'm guessing he's going to play Wadsworth because he's the only one I think that could pull it off. He's snarky enough.
We do begin with Clue. Mm-hmm. And Wadsworth. Coming home. Again, this whole beginning, I'm like, Danny Elfman didn't do the music.
Yep.
Are you sure about that? Because
it sounds so much like him.
Somebody's been listening to Danny Elfman then?
Danny Elfman had only done one other score by this point, I think. I think he only did Pee-wee's Big Adventure by this point. Maybe they liked Oingo Boingo a lot. If you didn't know, Danny Elfman was the lead singer of that band.
Well, this movie does feature a dead man's party.
It does. By the way, this I didn't write it down, but this is actually one of the first films to use a completely synthetic opening, like a completely electronic. So all the music is like there's no orchestra; it's just a keyboard.
It's all keyboard.
Yeah. For 1985, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's also a really good opening soundtrack. Mm-hmm. We get Wadsworth arriving and the dogs, and then this is where he steps in the dog shit, and that goes on far too long.
It comes up so like. I thought you don't get the comedy until later on. It would be so much better if it was just kind of this horror vibe throughout the whole thing.
But then,
yeah, because until
dog poop.
Yeah, because honestly, until Colonel Mustard shows up, there's no comedy.
No,
aside from the dog shit game. It should be completely...
Because he checks in with Yvette and the cook.
And the cook almost looks like she's going to stab him.
Making sure everything's good, but then literally after he leaves every room, they go...
And they all check their shoes. And it's just, it's... I don't know, maybe I'm guessing the studio just was like, there's no comedy. Why is there no comedy? and that's the point.
He greets both Colonel Mustard and Mrs. White separately at the door. They both...
I do love when he brings Colonel Mustard into Yvette. It's just like... Because he's just looking at her like she's the best snack in the world. And he's just like, Yvette, please help the Colonel with anything he asks. Within reason.
Scarlet meets Plum on the road.
Yes, there's going to be a lot of us recreating the dialogue. Deal with it.
Scarlet meets Plum on the road, and they both happen to be going to the same party. I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, look, we're in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
This looks like it's the only house for miles.
Yeah.
Also, it's very distracting that Leslie Ann Warren looks exactly like Susan Sarandon.
Yeah, that bugs me every time.
Like, Jesus, like, how are you not Susan Sarandon?
Yeah, she's very much the embodiment of Susan Sarandon. They are very much interchangeable, although I will say Leslie Ann Warren is a much, what's the word I'm looking for? Sassier actor, if that makes any sense. Like, I wouldn't see Susan Sarandon in this role.
Mrs. Peacock is just in the house, not greeted. She's like, oh,
she just
here,
shows
Mrs.
up.
Peacock.
Yeah. And by the way, that headdress shit, that was Eileen Brennan, the actress. She's just like, I'm going to put this in my hair, and Jonathan Lynn's like, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Mr. Green, we get to see from the beginning that he's a bit of a bumbling fool. Mm-hmm. You know, he tells the dogs to sit, and he sits.
Not you, sir. The dogs.
Sorry.
Oh, right.
He's so good. They're all so good, very much. Scarlet and Plum then arrive, and then it's dinner time.
Yes,
dinner time.
And
it's dinner
you know
time.
they're trying to figure out what's up, and then the chef rings the gong, and Mr. Green spills champagne on Miss Scarlet. No, sorry, it was Miss Peacock.
He spills soup later on Miss Scarlet.
Yes, and he's just, I'm sorry, I'm a bit accident prone, which comes into later.
Yeah. And then this is all them just like getting to know each other at dinner and realizing slowly that they're all work.
They all work.
They either work in Washington or make money off the government or live in Washington.
They all make money from the government somehow, but everyone except for Professor Plum lives in Washington. Yeah. He doesn't, but you've got a government job, so you know that's the lines that they go through.
Plus, you know, Wadsworth also, like, everyone got a note. I got a note,
and also, these are not their names.
Yes, these are all.
They make a point. He makes a point initially. Wadsworth makes a point initially for Colonel Mustard, where he's just like, "Oh, you're Colonel Mustard." He said, "No, I'm actually." He's like, "Sir, we don't want your name here. It's just, you know, everyone is to be referred to by a pseudonym."
Yeah.
And no one questions it after that, which I'm like, well, I guess we got to keep the movie going.
The seventh guest arrives, and that's Mr. Lee Ving of Fear fame.
He was in the movie because
Google it. They destroyed SNL once.
Yeah, like he was not there because of the album that Jonathan Lynn said. I mean, he did have a hit album, but it was also because there was a documentary.
I think it's the only album.
Yeah, I think it is.
Didn't Fear only put out one record?
I believe they did.
That's a punk band move, though,
They
right?
were not very good.
Well,
they were fine, but not very good even for punk standards. But they were featured heavily in a documentary that took the world by storm called The Decline of Western Civilization. Big enough that they actually made a sequel to that called The Metal Years, which I've seen more than the original, and is phenomenal. We'll get there someday. And that was just sort of the big thing, because Fear specifically, I think, was the biggest band featured in it. Mm-hmm. So the studio just wanted him in everything. And I don't know why.
Also, his name's Leaving.
Yeah, which helps. Again, like I mentioned earlier.
When was Streets of Fire? Because he's in Streets of Fire as well.
I think it was 85.
Yeah,
85 or 86. So it was around... Again, this is the studio wanting to put him in. I mean, if I went back in...
Fear and Leaving.
Exactly. If I went back into my notes, I would almost bet money that Streets of Fire was a Paramount production.
So Body, he does not want to be there. He wants to leave. He tries to leave. Mm-hmm. Dogs stop him. Because he's like, he's going to get through the greenhouse. And he's like, just glass. And then dog. And he's like, oh, well, I guess you better return to dinner, sir.
It's hard to tell if he's telling the truth because Leaving is a terrible actor.
Yeah, he's not.
I don't know what the hell he's doing.
Because he's not an actor.
Yeah. And I'm like, And
to those who criticize Fear, he's not much of a musician.
Exactly. I'm sorry. I do like punk. Not so much Fear. I don't know if his character is telling the truth or not. No. I just don't know.
So they have to retire to the billiards room for brandy and apparently blackmail.
Yes.
Because everyone's given their information and a gift. Mm-hmm. And it's all the weapons from Clue, your pipe, your wrench,
your lead pipe, your wrench, your
gun.
rope, your revolver, your knife.
If you're if you're Professor Plum who gets the revolver, you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah,
about yourself
I'm
right
fucking
now,
safe
because everyone else is like got fucking hand weapons. I'm like, I can shoot you people.
I brought a gun. I brought a gun to a melee fight. Fuck y'all. Y'all dead. Part.
I feel bad for Mrs. White. I'm like, a rope? That's it? Seriously? What can I do with a rope?
Hey, she puts good use to it.
That's true. Spoilers.
Well, first of all, you should not be listening to this if you haven't seen this movie. More so than most of the other films we talk about. You need to watch this and then come back.
It's a full statement. If you listen to any of our nonsense, watch the movie first.
You should.
So Plum is sleeping with his patients. Peacock is taking bribes. Scarlet is a madam. She's not ashamed of it either.
No, that's the one thing I like.
She's the one thing like, no, I did what I did.
Yeah, because I think it was because it follows Mrs. Peacock, who actually didn't do what she said she did, or they said she did, where she was like offering bribes because her husband's a senator, but she's saying it didn't happen, and they're all like, well, are we all being blackmailed for reasons? And they're all like, yes. And she goes, no. And she goes, no. And like, well, you're Mrs. Scarlet's like, like, oh, you're not being blackmailed? Oh, I'm being blackmailed, but I did what I'm being blackmailed for.
Colonel Mustard frequents, though, the brothel that Miss Scarlet runs. Oh, Mrs. White is trying
Turns out he did other things, too. Yes. Like, he's the worst of them all.
Is trying to avoid a scandal because she has several dead husbands, who she's vehemently denying that she's killed any of them.
One of the best fucking ones where it's just like, didn't your other husband die or disappear under mysterious circumstances? She's like, well, he was an illusionist. That was just part of his job. She goes, but he didn't reappear. I didn't say he was very good.
He wasn't a good illusionist. Adeline Kahn's so good.
Oh, she's so good.
Green is gay.
Yeah,
that's it. He's just like,
I won't allow Wadsworth to out me in front of all you people. I'm gay.
He's like, I work in Washington. Also, I'm a homosexual.
I do enjoy Miss Scarlet's reaction. Like, Leslie Ann Warren has some great facial shots in this, where she just looks utterly confused and disgusted at the same time, which I didn't think was two things you could feel. But she has that look when he announces it. She's just like, what the fuck? Okay. And
Mr. Body is the blackmailer. He reveals and basically says, yeah, all those weapons in your hand, you kill Wadsworth right now, we can all live.
Ends. Lights out. And then struggle, bang, gunshot.
Scream, ah!
Lights come on, Mr. Body's lying on the ground, and they're all freaking out. Mr. Green immediately, I didn't do it!
And it is apparently, Mr. Body's apparently dead.
Yes.
As he's checked by Professor
Plum checks him. They think he's been shot, but he hasn't been, because they check it's only his ear that's been grazed. And
well, that's later. That's later on.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it was here.
No, it's later.
Because he mentions, like, the gunshot and, like, somebody tried to grab it away from him in the dark.
Because he mentions that. I think that's what Wadsworth, one of the things he mentions when he's running around the house.
Oh, no, he mentions it here, too. He mentions the ear thing first, too. So they don't know what killed
no
him.
Bullet marks. See, it's in the wall.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a brandy. Maybe it's poison, as, like, Peacock's taking a drink and she drops it. In hysterics.
And she screams and runs around and
smacks
Green just
hold off and smacks her. And then I had to. She was hysterical.
I had to stop her from screaming.
And then Wadsworth brilliantly reenacts that
later
voice
on.
And all.
I had to stop her screaming.
They hear screaming from somewhere else in the house. They run, and it's Yvette, and she's crying because she also had some of the cognac. Mon Dieu.
I also had the cognac.
And everyone wants to fucking
all the guys except for
Mr.
Green want to console her.
Which I think is great.
There's so many of those moments where it's just like everyone's trying to comfort Yvette or something. He's just like, I don't give a fuck.
He's like, you're not interested.
There's a moment, because I'm going to forget about it, I'll mention it now, where they're all trying to go with Yvette somewhere because she's just like, I don't want to be alone. Who will come with me? And all the guys are like, I'll go with you. And Mr. Green just goes, no thanks.
And he's the one that gets stuck with her?
Yeah.
Wadsworth is the one that wrote the letters because he's just like, well, if we all could have collectively figured something out, we could have gotten out of this.
Yeah.
And then, it was kind of figured out for you a little bit. Go to the kitchen. Again, Mr. Green setting up the scene where he just goes, nothing's here. Door opens, cook falls on him, he can't handle her.
Yeah. He just falls
And then she's like halfway in the garden, he's like, did somebody help me?
Here. Yeah.
And there's a knife in her back and she's super dead.
So they drag her in something I didn't notice until this watching. They're dragging the cook. None of the guys are helping.
Yeah.
It's just the women dragging the giant cook. Except for, it was the women and Mr. Green, of course, because that's how you do that. 80s, folks. And they're dragging her, and it's like really difficult. And they're like, okay, let's put her on the couch. And they all look at her like, fuck, really? And then they do, and then it's like, all right, now Mr. Body, and all the men